You know how sometimes a place can be so significant, maybe uh, loaded with meaning for different groups, that it becomes a real flashpoint?
Oh, absolutely. Happens more often than you'd think.
Well, that's exactly what's happening right now in Jharkhand with Parasnath Hill. And it's not just some local dispute. Today, April 9th, 2025, the High Court has actually ordered the chief minister to step in.
Really? Wow. So it's escalated to that level.
Yeah. So we're going to take a close look at this whole situation, kind of peel back the layers of what's happening legally and, what it signifies for the people actually living there.
Sounds good. It's one of those situations where a single landmark becomes the focus for such, well, diverse and deeply held beliefs.
Exactly. It really throws into sharp relief the complexities of managing shared spaces in a, multicultural society.
It certainly does.
At its core, you've got this fundamental tension. The Jain community and the Adivasis community
Hmm.
both have these ancient, profound ties to the very same hill.
But incredibly different ideas about its purpose and how it should be treated, I imagine.
Precisely. And it's the government's attempts to navigate this, or maybe the way they've stumbled a bit, that have landed the entire issue squarely in the lap of the Jharkhand High Court.
It really makes you think about that balancing act governments face, doesn't it? How do you possibly reconcile these competing claims? Ensure everyone feels, respected and heard?
It's tricky. And the legal action we're seeing unfold today, it comes from a public interest litigation, a PIL,
Ah, okay.
filed by a Jain organization called Jayat. Now, for anyone maybe not familiar, a PIL is basically a way for people or groups to bring issues of public concern before the court.
Right, a tool for public interest.
And Jayat's main concern, their grievance,
Yeah.
is that the sacred nature of Parasnath Hill is being undermined.
Undermined how specifically? What are they pointing to?
Well, they have some very specific issues, things that seem to have cropped up with increased tourism in the area.
Okay. It's always important to get down to those specifics, isn't it? They often highlight the core differences.
Totally. So Joyat is pointing to things like the sale of alcohol and meat near the hill.
Okay, I can see why that would be an issue for Jains.
Right. And also unauthorized construction, buildings going up without proper permission, and even something that might seem minor on the surface, the presence of eggs in nearby Anganwadi centers.
Eggs. In childcare centers, why is that part of the PIL?
Because for the Jain community, with their very strict vegetarianism, I mean, they avoid anything derived from animals, even that feels like a violation in the vicinity of their most sacred site.
Wow. That detail about the eggs,
Yeah.
it really underscores the depth of their commitment to ahimsa, nonviolence, and how sensitive they are to anything considered, well, impure near Sammed Shikhar.
And that's where the High Court's action today becomes so important. They've actually instructed Chief Minister Hemant Soren to form a committee.
A committee, right. What's the makeup of this committee?
It seems carefully chosen. It includes members from the District Legal Services Authority, the DLSA.
Okay, so a legal perspective from the ground.
Yeah, suggesting the court wants that local legal insight. Plus, representatives from the state government and, crucially, members from Jayot itself.
Ah, so the petitioners are included. That seems like a deliberate attempt to bring different viewpoints together, legal, governmental, and the specific Jain concerns.
Seems that way.
Mm.
And their task is quite direct, but really significant. Go to Parasnath Hill, take a thorough look at the current conditions, and report back to the court.
So a fact-finding mission.
Essentially, yes. And this report is going to be absolutely key. It will directly inform the interim order the High Court eventually issues. What this committee sees and documents will have real consequences.
It's like the court is saying, hold on, before we rule, let's get a clear, objective picture of what's actually happening there. That groundwork is crucial.
Definitely. Now, to really get the weight of this, you have to understand why Parasnath Hill means so much to both communities.
Right. Let's unpack that.
Okay, so for the Jains, this isn't just any hill. It's Sammed Shikhar. They believe it's the very place where numerous Tirthankaras, their enlightened spiritual teachers, attained nirvana, liberation.
So it's fundamentally sacred, their most important pilgrimage site.
Absolutely. You can almost think of it as their Mount Olympus, their Vatican, their Mecca. It's that central.
That comparison really helps convey the scale of its importance. It's not just a place, it's core to their identity.
But then you have the Adivasis, the indigenous tribal communities of Jharkhand. They make up a big chunk of the state's population, about 26%, according to the 2011 census.
Okay, a significant presence.
And for them, this same hill is Marang Buru,
Marang Buru.
a vital place of worship, deeply interwoven with the natural world and their ancient traditions. It's a cornerstone of their culture, their spiritual landscape. represents that deep connection to ancestral lands, to deities.
So you have these two communities, both with incredibly deep historical roots tied to the exact same spot.
Right.
But their understanding, their experience, their way of relating to that space, it's fundamentally different.
And that inherent divergence is really at the heart of the conflict, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It has to be.
And those differences become really stark when you look at their core practices. The Jains, like we said, strict vegetarians,
Right.
no meat, fish, not even root vegetables like garlic for some, because of nonviolence.
Right. Ahimsa is central.
Whereas the Adivasis, while they have their own diverse customs, generally don't share those specific dietary restrictions. Meat and alcohol might be part of their social or cultural practices.
And that's where the friction likely ignites, right? Especially with commercial activity, tourism.
Exactly. The sale of liquor, the sale of meat, right near a site revered by a community practicing such rigorous nonviolence, it's bound to cause distress. A feeling that their holiest place is being, well, defiled.
It sets the stage for this inevitable clash of values. It's a classic case almost of different cultural norms intersecting in a shared sacred space, particularly one with such profound religious meaning for multiple groups.
Yeah, a difficult mix.
So looking ahead then, the immediate next step is this committee's investigation.
That's right, the investigation by this new committee. They'll head to Parasnath Hill, assess things on the ground, and write up that crucial report for the Jharkhand High Court.
And that report, as you said, will shape the court's initial, the interim, order, dictating the immediate steps.
Precisely. It's a real turning point, potentially. The committee's findings are the foundation for whatever the court decides next.
And this whole situation, it really boils down to a few core issues, doesn't it? Issues with much broader implications.
I think so. You've got that fundamental conflict. Religious sanctity versus tourism development, and the economic arguments that come with tourism.
Then there's the vital need to respect diverse cultural traditions tied to one place, even when they differ significantly.
And underlying it all is the sheer complexity of governing in these sensitive spots. How do you make policies that are inclusive, respectful, and consider economic realities?
It's a huge challenge for any administration.
Absolutely. And look, this didn't just pop up yesterday. There's a history here, a timeline of government decisions and community reactions that led us to this point.
Ah, yes, the backstory. Understanding that timeline is probably key to grasping how we got here.
Definitely. Let's run through some key dates. It arguably kicked off around October 22, 2018. The state government declared Sammed Shikhar an ecotourism spot.
Okay, 2018. That declaration itself probably raised some eyebrows in the Jain community immediately.
You'd think so. Then, not long after, February 16, 2019, the government doubled down with an official Gazette notification making it legally a tourist destination.
So cementing the tourism focus early on, maybe without fully grasping the Jain perspective at that stage.
Perhaps. Then, fast forward to August 2, 2019, the central government gave its approval to the state's plan. So it looked like full steam ahead for tourism.
Right.
But then the narrative shifts a bit. February 17, 2022. Hemant Soren's government issues another Gazette notification, this time calling it a Jain pilgrimage site.
Interesting, a shift in language. Was that an attempt to maybe acknowledge the growing unease, a course correction?
Could be interpreted that way.
Yeah.
But things kept evolving. January 3, 2023. Tribal groups held silent marches in Ranchi.
Yeah.
They wanted their connection, as Marang Buru recognized too.
So the Adivasi voice becomes much more prominent, highlighting the multi-layered significance. It's not just about Jain concerns versus tourism anymore.
Exactly. Then, just 2 days later, January 5, 2023, the central government steps in quite decisively, puts a halt to tourism activities, bans liquor, drugs, anything seen as defiling the hill's sanctity.
Wow, a major intervention, likely a direct response to Jain protests escalating.
Almost certainly seemed that way, but that decision understandably didn't sit well with the Adivasi communities.
I can imagine. How did they respond?
January 10th, 2023. They organized a huge gathering, a Mahajatan, right there at Parasnath Hill, asserting their rights, their connection to Marang Buru.
That counter-protest is so important. It shows that addressing one group's concerns without fully considering the other's just, well, it risks more conflict, more feelings of injustice.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Which brings us more current. January 8, 2025. Joyce files the PIL we mentioned, the one driving today's court action. And January 24th, 2025, the High Court issued notices to both central and state governments, officially kicking off the legal proceedings.
So we see the pattern, government decisions often focused on development or tourism, then community responses asserting rights and beliefs, leading finally to the courts trying to untangle it all.
It's quite a sequence, isn't it? A real roller coaster. It just highlights how incredibly challenging it is to navigate these intersections of faith, culture, and economics.
It really does. It underscores the need for, well, careful deliberation, truly inclusive dialogue with all stakeholders, and a deep understanding of the history and meaning of these places for everyone involved.
Which kind of brings us to a final thought, maybe something for listeners to chew on. As you think about Parasnath Hill, the layers of sanctity, the cultural heritage, the economic pressures, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Wonder what specifically?
In a world where tourism can bring benefits, how can societies possibly strike that balance? Balance economic potential with deeply held spiritual values, especially when they converge on the same sacred ground.
That's the question, isn't it? There are no easy answers.
None at all. And what happens at Parasnath Hill, the outcome there, it will likely offer some really valuable, maybe hard-learned lessons for similar situations we see popping up all over the world.
It truly is a microcosm of that bigger global challenge, managing shared sacred spaces peacefully, respectfully. The outcome in Jharkhand. Yeah, definitely worth watching closely. It could set precedents, offer insights. It's a story that's far from over.